Are you ready to unlock the secrets of brand innovation? Here you'll discover unexpected ways to make your brand soar in value. Get ready for inspiring stories, actionable tips, and insights you'll need to build your brand and learn an entirely new way to fly. This is the Hummingbird Effect. And now your host, Wendy Coulter.
Hi, I'm Wendy Coulter, and I help CEOs and branding leaders unlock the power of their brands. For years, business leaders have focused on marketing tactics, but what truly matters in our minds is brand. Think of it like the Hummingbird Effect, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, as usual. This is where small innovations in your branding or marketing plan can lead to really unexpected big results in the area of your business. It can help increase your valuation, create a stronger culture, and help create marketing messages that resonate. I've got Hanna with me today. Hanna is on the Hummingbird team, and she's joining us today. She's our marketing strategist here at Hummingbird. You doing well today, Hanna?
I am. I hope you are.
Awesome. I know there's some bugs going around, but you seem to be bouncing back.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're feeling a little bit better today, and we're able to join us.
Yes, I'm excited.
So I'm excited too. Today we've got Ryan Chute on the show, and Hanna, tell us a little bit about Ryan.
Yeah, so Ryan leads a consulting agency within the Wizards of Ads group, helping ambitious residential home service contractors and professional service companies grow their revenue profitability 4 to 10 times. He does this with brand-forward sales and marketing solutions. Ryan believes that our brand is, simply put, our culture, which we also really believe. So I'm very excited to talk to you, Ryan, and to learn more. We're going to chat with him about how he's seen the Hummingbird Effect in action and how seemingly small innovations had led him to big wins. So Ryan, welcome.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So Ryan, I was reading your story, and we actually have similar beginnings. So I saw that you worked in the family furniture store, and I grew up in my dad's shoe store. I learned customer service and sales in that way, and so I think I can relate to what was happening in the furniture store for you. How young were you when you were in the family store?
Well, from a child, really. My grandfather owned it before my father, and it was
Wow.
it was a company that had been in business for well over 100 years. So it started off as a dry goods store, then a furniture, appliances, clothing, carpets. There was a full range of things in that town, and as the evolution of business has been, I've kind of gone from working in a warehouse and cleaning toilets and mowing lawns straight through to selling and managing and running the store.
Yeah, I used to move the boxes around, the shoe boxes on the wall. It was called running, and you'd have to take a box out of one hole and put it down in the next. Whenever somebody bought a pair of shoes, we would run the whole wall and get them all back in line.
Yeah.
And that's what I did, like, all day long in the shoe store for my dad. And then I learned how to count money the backwards way, right? Where you count it back to the customer, which never happens in the world anymore. So very neat. I come from a family of entrepreneurs as well. And, I think that's a great background to draw from. I also am really a big fan of Wizard of Ads. And so I was telling you before the show, I read that book series, and the first book is just so well written. Such cool ideas around advertising and marketing. And so I thought it was so neat when you reached out to see that you're affiliated with Wizard of Ads. Do you want to share a little bit? Just give us your background and share with us kind of what that all is. I'd love for the listeners to hear more about Wizard of Ads, as well as, just tell us more about you.
For sure, yeah. In 2015, I'd been reading Roy's Monday Morning Memo at mondaymorningmemo.com for the last dozen or so years, and I too received those books from my father, who was running the business. And really, we just I resonated with that content. I grew up really, really transactional, like super transactional, retail sales, gimmicks, offers, promos. There's always something going on to try to coax the sale. And it was a lot of work. It was just exhausting. And then when we sold the family business, I got into the automotive industry, and it was like exhausting times 10. So I was no, I had certainly had a lot of experience with the transactional retail side of the fence, and did really, really well with it. I ended up traveling around the world, teaching people how to do sales and marketing around the world. And I got to run the Australasia market for a company I was working with. So had a lot of really great opportunities. In that time, I was reading one of the Monday morning memos, and Roy said, I think I'm going to step back and not do as many classes. I'm like, well, I didn't see this guy in action. So I go to one of his classes. It's actually that building right there behind my head. I'm at the Wizard Academy today, and basically it was the Magical World class, which is a not-for-profit school that Roy runs here in Austin, Texas. He doesn't run it anymore. In fact, it's been turned over to the next vice chancellor and board, as it is a not-for-profit. And that's his way of being able to help a whole bunch of business owners that can't afford the services that we're offering, or are looking to do it themselves or expand their own knowledge and experience. So they built this 16th century tower. They built this beautiful chapel right here beside me as well. And there's 1,100 weddings at that chapel every single year. They're all free. So it's something that he's been really proudly building for the last 25 years or so, as books were released. And a great place to start or extend the learning from his books is at the Magical Worlds class, and then there's a number of other ones that happen afterwards. So I went to that class, and it changed my life. It was astoundingly transformational for me, because I started to realize sales and marketing doesn't have to be so hard. It doesn't have to be so grind and grit and white knuckled every single day of the year. And really, as I started to just took class after class after class after that, and I was like, man, there's got to be a place for me to fit into this. And I didn't know about Wizard of Ads really at that point in time as an agency. And I just sent a 3-word email to Roy one day, said, can we talk? And we talked and talked. Now, he'd met me a number of times at this point. He was teaching a bunch of classes and had gotten to know me. So we chatted for a couple of months. And at one point he said, I really think you should be a partner. And I said, what's a partner? And he told me about the profit side of Wizard of Ads and the agency that he runs with people like myself, who now run agencies within his brand of Wizard of Ads. And we just follow the same principles that he teaches, but we now get the supercharged effect of it, because we now get the behind the scenes and the case studies and all the things that teach us how to do this at a very, very high level. And really what it boils down to is that marketing and branding are two different things. Advertising and marketing are two different things. Most people mix those things up, and it's up to us really in a lot of ways when we're working with new clients to show them the differences between the things, and to work on a holistic strategy for them, a strategy that bridges all channels, because we're not married to a channel. That we help them tell every part of their story and make sure that the story matches no matter where they are in their marketing journey, from pay-per-click ads to Facebook to the logos and truck wraps that they have. But more importantly, way more important than logos and truck wraps, is the story, that the actual words that you say and turn into an auditory signal that people can hear, because hearing has such a significantly higher retention rate than a logo.
Awesome. So I think that's a great segue into what we're going to talk about today with the Hummingbird Effect. And I'd love for you to share a specific instance where a seemingly small change in marketing or branding or a sales strategy or any other kind of strategy in business led to a significant and positive unexpected outcome or results in a different area of a business in your world?
Well, I'll preface it with saying that I kind of anticipated it being a success, and I did because there were some mechanisms that we had in place with the Wizard of Ads that allowed us to feel confident in the advice. And it came down to a situation where a client of mine was running near to the end of the year, and he was saying, "I'm going to put all of my stuff on sale." The big ticket item that we sell, it was a air conditioning company, and they were putting their air conditioners on for $1,500 off every air conditioner. And I said, "Okay, that's a reasonable rebate or transactional offer, a promotion. But what if we did something just a little bit different?" And he said, "Tell me more." And I said, "Well, listen, if you tell everyone that they get $1,500 off of any system, what are you really saying? What are you really doing? You're just saying that I'm charging you too much to start, and I'm not really worth this much. We're just going to give you this money off. And why not just charge you the lower amount to start with?" And there's all kinds of excuses and strategies and theories and reasons, I guess is the way that most people would frame it, why that's a good deal. And having lived in that world my whole life, I recognized it for what it was and said, let's reframe things here. Let's think about the two types of buyers that we really have. We have the transactional type minded people, and we have the relational type minded people, the people who care about their money more than their time are transactional, and the people who care about their time more than money are the relational. The relational people want to make the right decision. They don't want to have to go back to the well and keep doing it over and over and over again. And everyone on this call and everyone listening to this podcast is both transactional and relational for different things, right? My dad, if he could buy a car at the Dollar General, he would. It's not important to him. But the roof on his house is a big deal. So he invests more in that. So we're all different for all the different reasons that we have for growing up and so forth. So we have to think about what in the world can we do to actually appeal to people in a way that speaks to them. So I said, let's take $1,500 off the price if we can't install it today. Now that does two very interesting things. For the relational customer, it says, "Oh, well, you've got my attention. I'll pay you $1,500 for this thing to go away today." Absolutely. Now, if they happen to have a day off tomorrow, they'll also say, "You don't have to install it today." And certainly the transactional person's going to look at it and go, "Well, I don't think that you need to install it until Saturday. That would be fine." And they go, "Well, I guess you're going to have to get that $1,500 off the price." Well, now we've won both parts for what that person feels about an air conditioner. It had a huge success. It instead of just attracting one customer, the transactional customer who's looking to grind down the lowest price, it also appealed to the person looking for the highly empathetic and competent company that they could trust is going to do it right the first time. And when they attracted both, they were able to double their sales, which added $2 million to their bottom line in a single month. So when you start to see the effect that you can have by dramatically driving that business, it dramatically increased their revenue, having the biggest month that they'd ever had in the history of their company. So we have to learn how to speak to everyone the way that they want to be spoken to, as opposed to the way you think they want to be spoken to. It's the difference between the golden rule and the platinum rule. The golden rule, do unto others as you want to be done unto. The platinum rule, do unto others as others want to be done unto.
So Ryan, talk about if there were obviously sales increase, and that's an amazing story around, a marketing strategy leading to higher sales. That's what everyone wants out of their agency or their consultants. What other impacts might this have had on the business outside of that framework, right? Are there some consequences that happened that are different than what was expected going into the strategy that you presented?
Yeah, the hidden outcome or consequence that we see from that is that the brand integrity is held intact. Where one looks as though you're a bit of a swindler or a snake oil salesperson or just another guy saying another sale for another shenanigans to really just come across a bit disingenuous, we now have a much stronger brand impression and an identity of somebody that is playing with integrity, playing a game, recognizing what truly matters. It's not just money, it's money, energy, and time that we're speaking to. Because we do have about 50% of the population that really cares about spending less money, and everyone's going to be transactional about an air conditioner until you give them a reason to not be transactional about an air conditioner, which is far different than how we feel about our haircuts and the clothes we wear.
Right. So what do you feel like the takeaways and the learning was from this particular strategy that you would encourage other people to take to heart?
When you're looking in the marketing world at the side of the business that requires you to activate sales, that you need to consider the brand and how you can protect the brand in the eyes of the two different types of buyers, the transactional buyer and the relational buyer. People like to talk about the good leads and the bad leads. That just means somebody got married. If you hear that bell ringing, yes.
Oh, cool.
So there's the good leads and there's the bad leads. Well, the good leads are the relational customers that do what you tell them to do because they trust you, so they believe in you and they're going to do as you suggest. Not because they're gullible and willing to spend any amount of money, but because you've established a respected relationship. Relational, not relationship. And the transactional people can have a relational bone in their body, but they don't have yet enough of the ingredients to your recipe of value that have them switching over or considering a relational relationship with you with regards to this exchange. Why does this all matter? It matters because we have to meet people where they are. When you're thinking about an offer, the relational person isn't going to be attracted to the everyone gets money off aesthetic. They're going to say, you're just charging too much. And that immediately demonstrates a lack of empathy and competence. The other side of it is it also appeals to the transactional customer. Now, this isn't easy. There are very few of these types of strategies that you can do in sales activation that are complementary to brand. Sometimes you just have to lower the prices to get people excited about a particular thing. So when you have the opportunity to fold both in, it's very valuable for you to consider, where am I meeting my customer? And if I want to meet more of my relational customers, what matters to them? And what matters to both the transactional and relational customer is a pain relief of some sort, right? Whatever that perception of pain is, number one. Number two, elevation of identity, of status, of class, not only within ourselves, our internal dialogue, but with the people that we love and the tribes that we're in, the family units, the organizations we work for, our circle of friends, the church that we attend. All of these people have opinion about who you are as a person, and all of the things we buy suggest whether or not we're a good buyer, a competent buyer, a wise buyer, a savvy buyer, that we're aesthetically pleasing, that we're whatever it might be. It all feeds back to identity. So meet people where they're at, and you're going to have dramatic better results in the people that you attract to yourself to get the result that you're looking for.
Ryan, to that point, so the most amazing relational type of strategy I can think of that most people can relate to is what we've seen Apple do, right? So you very rarely do you see an Apple product go on a big sale. It really is all about creating experiences, meeting customers where they are, and a premium product. When you talk about because you're in this home services space, I think quite a bit in your world, can you talk about whether the word premium comes to play when you're talking through pricing specifically in situations like this?
Yes.
And how does that also, affect other areas of the business when you take that kind of direction with your marketing?
Premium is, I would argue, particularly in the home services, is probably one of the most misused and misinterpreted words ever used. We're the premium price provider, which just means that we charge more, not actually delivering anything more. Well, our guys are really good and we care a lot more. Who doesn't say that, right? Everybody says that. You're not the premium price provider, you're the expensive price provider. So we spend an incredible amount of time. The reason I'm at the Wizard Academy is for 2 annual meetings with clients over the last 2 days. And we talked about the one big thing that makes them stand out over their competition. Now, there are very few things in home services that you can do to stand out above the competition because, let's face it, you're all selling effectively the same products. You're installing it effectively the same ways. From the customer's perception, the only difference that you are between you and somebody else is possibly your logo and truck grabbed. Otherwise, you're infinitely interchangeable. So how do you stand out? You do things differently. You say things differently. You speak to the feelings of a person so that they recognize what you stand for and what you stand against. There's a couple of things to unpack, Wendy, with what you're asking. The first is about the word premium. People will only pay you a premium in the externally triggered grudge purchase space, the purchase of air conditioners, the purchase of even a luxury car, the premium car, BMW, let's say. Not an elite car, not an exotic, but something that's nicer than the average. And there's 2 reasons in total. Internally triggered and externally triggered products. If it's an externally triggered product, it's convenience. I will pay you more for the same thing if you can be more convenient to me before, during, and after the sale than your competition, right? The bigger your warranty, the fact that you've been in business long enough to actually be able to have a 10-year warranty or 20-year warranty or whatever. That you were easy to get a hold of, you were easy to communicate with, and that the sales process was simple and elegant as well, and you explained things in a simple way without over-explaining things. During the sale, you made finance options available to me. During the sale, convenience is the number one reason why a person will pay you a premium for the exact same product. You can buy that air conditioner down the road, you can buy that BMW down the road at the other BMW dealership. I'll pay you a premium if you're better than, but only within reason. We're not idiots. We're just willing to pay a little bit of a premium for the convenience, right? How did you make it easy on me? Because while everything leads to identity, identity is oriented around energy, right? If I am feeling negative about the situation, if it feels off, if I'm dealing with a problem and that I'm trying to solve and get back to that baseline, or even, God forbid, happy, right? Right? We want to go that extra mile and delight people. We'll talk about that later. When we talk about cars and luxury items and Lululemon pants and all of these things that have a person thinking, I need to have this, the only other thing that people pay a premium for is status, exclusivity, a rank up in class, a way to take me from here to here. I am keeping up with the Joneses. All the kids have to have the cell phone, but it's not just the cell phone. If you have a Samsung, you're a poor kid. Like, all of the crazy things that you hear, they're not true, but they're perceptually what society is dictating as true, right? So status is a rank, and we're all trying to rank up, not just with the people around us. It's important for us to recognize it's not just about me trying to impress my wife, or the person or that mate that I'm looking to attract, or my boss or my customer. I'm also trying to impress myself. I'm trying to say to myself that I'm worth it. I'm internalizing that. A lot of it is subconscious. The first thing that I'm trying to say is, you deserve that thing or you don't deserve that thing. We often see that tug in our own emotion and psyche when we're trying to make a purchase decision. Whether or not we're providing for our families when we buy a air conditioner or the nicer air conditioner of the options that you have. The house that you buy, the things that you decide to decorate your house with. Everything is about two things: status and convenience.
Hey listeners, if you're enjoying the Hummingbird Effect, there's a special treat just for you. The team has put together a free downloadable resource that maps out 20 reasons why having a branding strategy is essential for your business. It's packed with valuable insights that help you understand the power of effective branding. Don't miss out. Download it now by visiting the website hummingbird-creative.com or checking the link in the show notes.
I'd like to talk a little bit, like you've unpacked metrics and you've unpacked kind of how things affect the psychographics of the customer, right? Let's talk about how this type of strategy might have had some positive consequences on culture. I know culture is a big word for you, Ryan. So what did you see in terms of unexpected outcomes when it comes to internal culture from this type of sales and marketing strategy?
Absolutely. So it's not, it's a chicken and egg question, and the idea of what comes first, the brand or the culture, and the answer is always going to be the culture is going to come first, because the culture is what's going to dictate the buying experience. And the employee experience and the buying experience, the buyer's experience, are going to inform the brand. So as we look at the three together, the culture, the brand, and the buying experience, we start to realize that everything feeds from the culture. So that's strategically where we should be orienting our business strategies from. We should be orienting to how can we make it easy for sellers to sell, to make it easier for buyers to buy, and then tell the stories of both of those things in the advertising we do to elevate our brand.
Awesome. How do you believe that companies can stay nimble? I mean, in this home services space, I know things are changing all the time. It's a high-paced environment. We're looking at almost like a retail environment oftentimes. So how can companies stay nimble and adaptable, and how does that help them capitalize on the potential of a hummingbird effect?
Well, from a tactical standpoint, you need to be paying attention to the marketing mix. So the swath of channels that one can go on, from a truck wrap to a billboard to a park bench to a whatever, you need to know what's going on. For example, this week, ChatGPT search has just been launched. We have to be paying attention to how we're going to function and work within the channel itself. But that's actually just nuts and bolts stuff. That is absolutely essential, important things for people to pay attention to. But what matters far more, is what strategy are you trying to take? What are you trying to achieve with your brand? And what is your story? Because the words that you use to attract people before they get to these channels are the essential things that you need to be able to articulate to win this game. You will not win if the first place you meet people is the place where they're going to look for your stuff.
Awesome. Talk to me about experimentation in your world, and how that plays into the hummingbird effect.
Experimentation, absolutely essential, because we don't know what we don't know. We don't know how much it's going to cost to run ChatGPT search, for example. No one does. We have no idea how much Google is going to raise their prices this year. Right? Right. But they have, and they certainly won't tell you, but they certainly do take your money and not give you the same lead counts, and you wonder what the heck's going on. And all of those things have to be this constant vigilance of paying attention to actual KPIs. Now, most people obsess about every metric that ever existed in the history of metrics is a KPI. And that's a exhausting adventure to go on. When I analyze really what needs to actually matter in any of these things, it's three big KPIs that we're going to be paying attention to. And there's some iterants of that, but the three big buckets of KPIs, key performance indicators, are conversions at a variety of different areas, averages at a variety of different areas, and profits at a variety of different areas. Everything else is a PI. It's going to inform the KPI. So I call it high cap and low cap KPIs. If your high cap KPIs meet or exceed the expectation, we celebrate. If we have low cap KPIs, KPIs that don't meet or are below the minimum standard, the benchmark that we've set, then we need to investigate. That's when PIs come into place, and we can start to figure out what is it that broke. One of our clients recently said to us, I don't think that my website's very good. The scheduler doesn't convert anything more than 13%. We need to do advertising that drives people to our phones. So we looked at it and we said, may we give you feedback? And the answer, of course, is always yes, strangely enough. But that permission allowed us to say, you're right, your website, in particular the scheduler, is terrible. And we don't need to advertise to people to go to the call center or the phone in. We need to fix the scheduler, right? So from 13 things that they asked a customer, we got it down to 3 things that they asked the customer, and we rearranged the order in the way in which a customer would feel most comfortable in answering it, allowed them to take it from 13% to currently 63%, and I would suspect that we'll sit somewhere between 70 and 80% conversions on website within the next month. So when we start to look at the KPIs, a lot of the time, the interpretation of those KPIs is absolutely essential to the success or the failure of the campaign that you're trying to run. If we had just tried to convince everyone to get on the phones, they would have a capacity issue for the phones. But because we're actually solving the root problem, not the symptom, we're able to solve the bigger problem and allow for a clear pathway for exponential profitable growth.
Awesome. Hanna, any thoughts?
Yeah. So I really liked how you said to really think about how to beat someone essentially to the problem that they're going to have. I think that that's a really unique way to think about the tactics that you're about to put in place. And everyone should try to think a little bit harder about that. And you've talked about how you really question the traditional approach. You kind of sat in and found the difference between the transactional and relational customers with your clients, which then led to a shift in their sales. But how do you encourage other business leaders to look for these hummingbird effects and to know where there might be this opportunity in their business?
Really, it ends up being in to some degree the ability for people to actually give themselves permission to go looking. The hardest people to convince of something are smart people. And most business owners are quite smart. And they know they can figure it out, and they're not, if they can, they will. But it's the difference between a smart person and a wise person is that a smart person goes and figures it out, and a wise person goes and finds a smart person who's already figured it out. And that's what a wizard is a person who is I'm blessed to have an aggregate of data that allows me to already see where the successes and failures have been, or to be willing to do an experiment in a controlled environment to allow us to succeed. And ultimately, that's all we're trying to do is succeed for our clients, because we're tied to their success, not to their expense. And ultimately, one of the things that I've come to realize and feel fairly sound about is that it takes many, many different types and energies and efforts from sales, from marketing, from operations, from finance, from accounting, all to inform the decision. In business, if you don't have a marketer in the room who knows what they're doing, you're making an uninformed decision because, communication and the path forward for that communication, strategically speaking, is essential for the success of the campaigns. To just subtly change something from one thing to the other will dramatically affect the result. The difference between $1,500 on, $1,500 off if we can't install it today is dramatic. And it's dramatic because of that little extra special little bit, something we call the third gravitating body, that affects the mood and the tonality of what it is that matters. Chris Voss talks about how to get people to say the same question you have where they respond yes, but instead to have them say that same answer in a no format. When we get them saying no, there's a safety in that. So it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And somebody who's got a skill set that wraps around sales and marketing knowledge allows those decisions to be made outside of the vacuum.
And you had said earlier that changing the long-term impact, I guess, of changing the way that they were talking to their customers increased their sales. But were there any other areas in their business where they now had the opportunity to look to make these changes in their culture, in their other departments, or did they find any other changes with this?
What I've come to discover is that there's actually 12 key areas that a company needs to focus their efforts to remove friction from the organization. The things that are causing that friction are a result of the policies and procedures that you build, how you've curated your inventory and your pricing, how you've built your marketing out, how you've created sales processes that are either redundant or unnecessary to get the sale done, to what we actually do to delight a customer and to delight an employee in the recruitment and or sales process, in the retention process. How are we developing or delivering our meetings and our training and our development of those people? Are we focused in on personal development and professional development? Or are we giving them a career path? Or are we just giving them the opportunity to work for us? All of these things and many more have a dramatic effect on, first and foremost, the culture, because it's those people, the wild cards in our business, the ones that we're asking to represent us, our intentions, and achieve our goals for us. If we're not feeding and supporting and serving them, they're not going to serve the buying experience to the level that we want them to. And those two experiences are the only thing that make up a brand.
Ryan, I saw the picture of you with the shirt that had Frictionless across it, so I knew that it was going to come into play sometime during our conversation.
It is, yeah.
Do you feel like this idea of becoming more frictionless and having less friction in business is kind of a direct correlation to where we're seeing innovation as the talking point today? And talk to me a little bit about that and how that leads to success in business. I think it's a really interesting concept that you have explored there.
The frictionless concept isn't new. It is being adopted heavily into technologies in essentially creating highly sophisticated things that deliver a highly intuitive result. Apple being one of the most popular examples of that. It's just incredibly easy to interface and use these products naturally without a whole lot of training or studying required. To have a frictionless environment doesn't mean that there shouldn't be friction at some point or tensions at some point. But it's about how we control those things and how we put this mechanism, this flywheel mechanism together to get the best, fastest, most healthy moving machine that we call a business that generates the highest profit through the highest level of efficiency without sacrificing the human experience necessary for the people to, one, easily say yes and easily get a yes, but equally as much to show up to work every single day and do their jobs. And that takes just an astounding amount of upfront work and then monitoring and adjusting as times change, as technology changes, as environments change. Ultimately, all of these things affect how we're going to do things. So it's this ongoing repetitive cycle. As you grow, you're going to add more people. That's going to create friction. How do we handle that? How do we address change in a frictionless mindset? The goal is that when we reduce friction, we reduce resistance. The resistance comes from the person. The resistance is the energy that sits below the baseline of happy in any person. The chemicals that are being created that create that negative resonance, that vibration of this doesn't feel good, I don't want to be here, I don't want to do that. It's disingenuous to me as a person to sell it that way because it's not true in my heart or my eyes. And all of those are what translates into what your business actually is. The people who are best at reducing those frictions and tugging on tensions in the right way are the ones who have the companies that grow the fastest for the most amount of profit.
In the example that you gave, do you know if the friction reduced? I mean, you gave a solution in which sales improved, which I would assume made a lot of people's jobs easier and probably more exciting. So do you know if that played into the employees and how they felt working there?
Well, that's exactly it. When you can make it easier for a person to sell and they sell more stuff, I don't know about you, but I feel awfully good when I make a sale.
Right.
Right. And that's really what it all boils down to is that's all what we're trying to do. And when I make a sale, I'm making a sale for my whole team. I'm not just making it for myself. I don't actually see it as Ryan got another one. Good job, Ryan, or any of those things. It was like this feeds the monster that we're building here. My big vision, my big ideas, my beliefs that we can help people in a big way. And the reality of it is that when we go to work and are able to serve our clients, that it's their wins that actually feed me. It's their growth and profitability that are my wins. And not because I want to claim them as wins, but because I'm a part of the mechanism that is winning, which is how I serve.
And looking back on the success that it had, do you wish you would have pushed anything further? Were there any changes that you would have made to the idea you had?
Of Frictionless?
The HVAC example where you changed the wording and the promotion that they were putting on. Again, with the Hummingbird Effect of changing up the normal way of doing things and pushing in a way that's more your brand. But do you wish, or do you have any thoughts of how you would have taken that any further?
I'm one of those types where I really, really think through a thing pretty aggressively before I'll even let it come out of my mouth. But when it does come out of my mouth, I'm going to stick to it. And then I'm going to see what the experiment brings. And with some of our clients, they did struggle to really get it there all the way because they phoned it in. Instead of saying $1,500 if we can't install it today, they said $1,500 if we can't install it tomorrow. So you've just taken all of the wind out of your own sail. That's a self-inflicted wound. You need to lean into brave offers, knowing that you're going to face the punishment. One of the things that I'm blessed to be around is brilliant partners. We have 80 partners in total, and one of those people is Manly Miller, a pastor out of New Orleans. Opened up his own church. He also does marketing. He certainly helps a lot of churches with their marketing, but many other companies. And he said, Ryan, your beliefs are absolutely worthless. And I said, that's an interesting way to start a conversation, Manly. Well, what do you mean? He goes, well, think about it. Your beliefs are easily interchangeable. I can believe that justice and mercy are both profoundly true, because they are. But it really just depends on which side of the table you're sitting on as to which one you believe in the moment. As the accused murderer, I want mercy. As the victim's family, I want justice. But what happens when the victim's family murders the murderer? Now what do they want? These are easily interchangeable, profoundly difficult philosophical conversations to resolve. But the point being that a belief is only as good as the words that are said. There is no additional value to them. Why does that matter? Because the value that you bring to an equation, a buyer's equation, an employee's equation, a spousal equation, a father or son, a daughter equation, right? All of these are based off of sacrifice, off of consequence, off of the suffering that needs to take place for the benefit of somebody else, right? True value means that you're doing something valuable, which means you're doing something hard in comparison to the alternative, because the alternatives everyone can do. The thing of value is the thing that you're willing to do that someone else is not willing to do. That's a big deal.
I would say, in regards to this, your value is your hummingbird effect. It's taking what everyone else is doing and how are you going to swap it up? How are you going to make it work for your brand to help your customers that are loyal to you so they'll keep coming back and you'll see the success from it. So that's a really powerful thing to think about.
Very much so. And that hummingbird effect, as you say, Hanna, is the thing that wouldn't quite obviously be done by everyone else.
Right.
It's the thing that people go, cool,
Right.
my people.
You
They're willing
remember
to
it.
They're willing to do
Yeah.
that thing that other people weren't willing to do for me.
Right.
And that's a lot of different things depending on the business.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it can make such a big difference. We watch clients kind of say no to big ideas sometimes when if they would just trust in it, a lot of times it would make such a big difference.
Right.
And
There is a big challenge with a lot of those. Certainly something I see at the Wizard of Ads a lot with people who don't necessarily have the strategic or operational understanding of how to execute on that, be it the client or be it the person advising the client, of saying, hey, here's this crazy great idea that's going to work for sure. And the person either operationally could not do it or can't conceive how to do it or would not do it. And all of those have to intermingle and intermesh so that the ideas that are brought to the table are something that can be very, very durable and repeatable at an economic rate.
Right. And like you said, just lean in. You've brought people to the table to give you these ideas. I know, like, it is sometimes crazy. Like, I'm sure when you introduce that idea, they were like, we can't do that. That's not what anyone else does. It's not going to work. But they trusted you because you were the expert there and it worked. So I really liked your lean in advice.
Well, and it takes operational planning. It's not just, hey, we're doing that tomorrow. It's like, we have to figure out what the salespeople are going to say. We have to know what we're going to stand for. We have to know what weasel words we can get out of. We're going to have to remove any of these yeah, but what ifs kind of stuff and just take the pill. We have to price ourselves accordingly. We have to look at how many chances that we're going to fail at this and be willing to lean into that $1,500. And all of this compounds into where you're at. Not all companies can execute that strategy. This isn't a one-size-fits-all strategy. If you're a home service business, some people will go bankrupt doing it. Other people will water it down so much that it won't matter. You'll never succeed with it. And other people will overanalyze it and over-crucify it and then put all kinds of rules in place where nobody wants to do it in their business. All points of friction that have to be resolved before you go for it. The one that actually went for it was a company that was incredibly nimble, very fast moving, and they could move fast. And they really just said, we'll suffer the consequence and figure it out, because they knew that ultimately they were going to have greater success just getting after it. Others measured every last penny to the dollar and had put in all kinds of rules, and it took 6 months to implement, and it took a really long time for them to see any result. And they always kind of said, it's just okay. It's because you just made it okay, right? It's different people, different strategies, and neither one of them are bad operators in those two examples, but they operate very differently. to get the result.
Ryan, do you have anything else to share today?
I have days and days and days of share, but the day continues on and we have other things to do and people to look forward to talking to some more.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show today. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your stories about the Hummingbird Effect. I just want to say how grateful I am to all of the guests who have been on in 2024. We're coming towards Thanksgiving, and we launched this show this year. So, Ryan, you get to hear me give the biggest thank you of all to Hanna. Hanna pushed me to present this podcast and get it off the ground. It was an amazing idea. We've made some great connections in 2024, and I'm really looking forward to how it's going to move forward in 2025. The team at Hummingbird, I'm so grateful for their support of both of us to take our time and spend it on this initiative. Joe, thank you so much. As I told you, Joe is our producer. And as I told him at the start of the show, we've only gotten amazing positive response to the quality of the show and the production. And we really, really appreciate that. And a big thank you to all of our listeners today. Thank you for your time and attention to these great stories that our guests are sharing. But now it's time for you to go out and find your Hummingbird Effect. Thank you. Have a great day.
Are you ready to unlock the secrets of brand innovation? Here you'll discover unexpected ways to make your brand soar in value. Get ready for inspiring stories, actionable tips, and insights you'll need to build your brand and learn an entirely new way to fly. This is the Hummingbird Effect. And now your host, Wendy Coulter.